You've probably watched dozens of videos like this before, but what you're about to see is different. These aren't stage clips or cheap edits designed to scare you for a few seconds. Subscribe if you don't want this to happen to you. Every single one of the videos you're about to watch was captured on camera by people who had no idea what they were about to witness. I spent over a decade studying strange phenomena, analyzing thousands of recordings, and interviewing the people behind them. And I can tell you with confidence that what you're about to see isn't just coincidence or tricks of light. Some of these events were captured in homes where families reported hearing voices late at night, objects moving without anyone touching them, and shadows appearing in places no one should be. One case in particular stands out. Last year, in a small town in Oregon, a security camera recorded a figure walking through a locked house. The doors were checked repeatedly, and nothing could explain how this figure moved from room to room without triggering a single sensor. I personally reviewed the footage frame by frame. The figure's movement doesn't match anything human. It floats, pauses in midair, and even seems to react to the people filming as if it knows they're watching. Another clip from a storage facility in Arizona shows a series of doors opening on their own. The cameras were old but functional, and the manager confirmed that no one had a key to that specific section for weeks. What makes this even stranger is that the doors didn't just open, they slammed shut immediately after, in a pattern that almost looks intentional. When I spoke with the workers who were there that night, their reactions were genuine terror. One even quit his job the next day, saying he couldn't stop thinking about what he saw. These are just a few examples, and each one is different, but all of them share one thing in common. The people filming didn't expect anything to happen. Some of them were just testing cameras. Some were trying to prove a point to friends, and others were recording what they thought would be normal daily life. But the moment the paranormal manifests, it leaves a mark on everyone involved, whether they realize it immediately or not. And I've seen cases where these events don't just stay confined to one night. They follow people for weeks, even months, changing the way they live without them ever fully understanding why. So scariest no quieres que te pase a ti esto. Some of the most unsettling footage comes from places that should feel safe. Bedrooms, living rooms, even classrooms. I once examined a clip from a high school in Pennsylvania where a janitor left a camera running overnight. Around 2:17 a.m., a shadow appears at the end of the hallway. What's strange is that the shadow doesn't just move. It stops, turns, and then seems to look directly at the camera before disappearing into a wall. The janitor told me he checked the footage over and over, hoping it was a trick of the light. But the physics of it don't add up. There was no vent, no open door, nothing that could explain how something solid appeared, interacted, and vanished in seconds. Then there's the infamous case in Miami last summer, where a homeowner security system recorded an entire series of doors opening and closing in perfect rhythm while he was asleep upstairs. The cameras were motion activated, and for a moment, it seemed like the system itself was being manipulated. When I spoke to the family, they described hearing footsteps walking through the hallway at night, whispers calling their names, and a sudden drop in temperature that made the air feel like ice for hours. The homeowner even reported seeing a figure standing in the corner of the living room in the reflection of his television, an image that matches perfectly with what the cameras captured. Some events are smaller, almost subtle, but no less terrifying. In a rural cabin in Montana, a couple set up a wildlife camera outside their porch to catch deer at night. What they caught instead was a small, humanoid figure peering into the window, blinking once, then vanishing into the woods. They swore it didn't move like any human or animal. I examined the footage myself and slowed it frame by frame. Its gait is impossible. Every movement defies normal anatomy, almost as if it was bending space around it. What fascinates me, and what makes these cases different from anything else you'll find online, is the consistency of the reactions. People don't fabricate fear when it's real. The panic, the confusion, the sleepless nights, they leave marks. One woman in Chicago described a presence in her apartment that wouldn't leave. Cameras captured faint distortions in the corners of her living room, objects subtly shifting, and lights flickering away that couldn't be explained by electricity. She tried to ignore it, thinking it was her imagination, until her cat started hissing at empty corners, refusing to enter certain rooms. That's when she realized it wasn't just in her head. And while many dismiss these videos as fake, I can assure you, the level of detail, the physics-defying movements, and the consistent patterns across completely unrelated locations cannot be explained by hoaxes. I've studied CGI and deepfake technology extensively, and none of these clips show the hallmarks of digital manipulation. In every instance, the evidence points to something else entirely, something that interacts with our world in ways we barely understand. The chilling part is that these events don't always stay confined to a single location. I've tracked patterns where the same phenomena appear in multiple homes across different states, each time targeting moments when people are alone or vulnerable. One particularly disturbing video came from a surveillance camera in an empty office building in Seattle. At 3:03 a.m., lights flickered. A chair slowly slid across the floor, and a shadowy figure appeared at the top of the stairwell. The camera shows it moving down the stairs in a way that seems to defy gravity, almost gliding, then stopping to look directly into the lens before disappearing entirely. I reached out to the building security team. They confirmed the building had been locked, alarms were active, and no one could have entered. These are just the first few clips I've curated. Each one becomes more disturbing than the last. And the further you watch, the more you begin to notice patterns. Shadows that shouldn't exist, figures that shouldn't be there, and moments of pure terror captured with no warning. It's not entertainment. It's a glimpse into something we don't fully understand, something that refuses to remain hidden, even when cameras try to capture it. Some of the most chilling cases happen in places where people feel completely safe: homes, schools, offices. A few months ago, I received footage from a family in Vermont who had installed cameras throughout their farmhouse after reporting strange noises at night. Around 1:42 a.m., the cameras captured something that made even me pause. A rocking chair in the living room began to move on its own, slowly at first, then faster, as if guided by an unseen hand. The family tried to dismiss it as a draft or the old wooden floors settling, but then a series of doors started opening one by one in a sequence that didn't make sense. Each opening was followed by a faint whispering, almost like a conversation, but no one was there. I spent hours enhancing the audio, and you can actually hear distinct words, though they're fragmented, almost taunting in nature. Another case came from an apartment in New York City. A man had set up a small camera to monitor his dog while at work. At around 2:30 a.m., the camera recorded the dog staring at a corner of the living room. That corner looked completely normal until a shadow slowly emerged from the wall. The dog began growling, hair standing on end, yet the man was convinced the apartment was empty. Over the next few seconds, the shadow seemed to move toward the camera, its shape shifting as if it couldn't decide on a form. The dog eventually bolted out of frame, and the shadow vanished as quickly as it appeared. When I spoke to the man later, he admitted he never wanted to watch the footage again, but he sent to me anyway. Sometimes, the activity is subtle at first, almost playful, but it escalates quickly. In a small town in Wisconsin, a woman recorded her living room for a weekend experiment. Initially, she captured small anomalies, objects slightly out of place, faint knocks at the walls. But then, in the middle of the night, her camera caught a figure standing silently in the hallway. It had no distinct features, just a dark silhouette, but its presence was undeniable. The next morning, she discovered scratches on the floor leading to her bedroom, even though she had locked all the doors. What's fascinating and terrifying is that these events don't always follow normal patterns. Some figures appear only to certain people, ignoring others entirely, as if they can choose who notices them. One of the most baffling recordings came from a security camera in an abandoned hospital in Detroit. A group of urban explorers left cameras in the main hallway to document the building. Around 3:17 a.m., the cameras captured a door slowly creaking open, followed by a faint, high-pitched sound that seemed to echo unnaturally. Shadows moved along the walls in a sequence that mimicked human motion, Yet when explorers arrived the next day, there was no evidence anyone had been inside. The footage is particularly disturbing because the shadows appear to be aware of the cameras themselves, almost performing for them. I analyze the frames in slow motion, and the movement is entirely inconsistent with human anatomy. Then there are cases where the activity seems almost personal. In Phoenix, a woman recorded herself sleeping in her bedroom. In the middle of the night, her camera captured a figure sitting on the edge of her bed. It didn't speak, it didn't move much, but it stared at her in a way that made the hairs on my neck stand up when I watched it. The next day, she found objects from her nightstand on the floor, perfectly aligned in a straight line, something she insists she didn't do herself. I've seen dozens of videos like this, and the patterns are consistent. Subtle activity at first, then something unmistakable, something that proves these are not accidents or technical glitches. What makes all of this so unnerving is how ordinary it looks at first glance. Many people dismiss these recordings as glitches or tricks of light, but when you slow them down, analyze them frame by frame, and listen closely to the audio, you start noticing patterns. Figures appear when cameras are recording, objects move without cause, shadows bend in ways that defy logic, and sometimes you catch fleeting glimpses of something that looks almost human, but isn't. I've spent years trying to explain it scientifically, and while some instances can be rationalized, many cannot. And the truth is, these events don't just stay in one place. Some follow the people who recorded them, lingering for days, weeks, even months. One man from Minnesota reported seeing the same shadowy figure in multiple homes he visited, always in the corner of his eye, always disappearing when he turned to look directly at it. He even tried installing multiple cameras in his new home, thinking the previous sightings were coincidental. But the phenomenon continued, escalating each time. It's almost as if whatever this is, it's learning, adapting, and choosing how to manifest.